The following program is an independent production aired on this network. The opinions and information provided on today's show are those of guests and of the host and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of this network. It's recommended that all listeners exercise due diligence when considering topics or advice of a controversial nature.
Motherhood Incorporated proudly presents Military Mom Talk Radio live on TogiNet.com. Co-hosted by Robin Boyd and Sandra Beck, the owner of Motherhood Incorporated. Military Mom Talk Radio is here with a powerful platform for women to discuss their ideas, issues, and concerns with respect to the military lifestyle. Military Mom Talk Radio encourages you to share your experiences of being a military wife and mother. This show is dedicated to educating your family about the many resources that are available in both the public and private sector, and we'll be sharing helpful information from women all over the world. We'll cover everything military, from helping a family member cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, to navigating government programs dealing with family issues, to the struggles of deployment, along with being a working mother both in and out of the home. This is Military Mom Talk Radio, and here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Military Mom Talk Radio on this the end of July day. I can't believe that it's already the end of July. This month is flying by. And if you've got some kids, I guess, in the western part of the country, you might be just about starting school already. We out here in the east have a few more weeks left before school starts. But boy, they sure hit you with all those commercials right from the get-go. I think right after July 4th, that's when you start hearing all the back-to-school promotions and whatnot. As summer starts to wind down, I hope you, wherever you are in your country, in the country I should say, are taking time to go and seek out some of the country fairs or town fairs in your area. Not only is it a wonderful way to sort of kick back and have some hometown in entertainment and meeting people you haven't seen in a while, but it's also a wonderful way to connect with some cottage industries. And I've got to tell you, as things have changed in our world, a lot of those cottage industries are the ones that are really important to investigate, to explore, find some wonderful products, and support the guy next door. So I hope that you're spending a little bit of time doing some of those kinds of things. And I know as the fall, especially around here, as the fall comes, when we get all the county fairs coming up. So wherever you are, it's a good way to get to know your area, get to know the people in your neighborhood. And I know I wish I was in another part of the country sometimes, because I would love to be in the neighborhood of Scottsdale, Arizona, because there's the neatest lady named Blythe Lipman who lives there, and she is joining me on our first segment. Blythe Lipman is a baby and toddler expert. She's the author of some great guides for parents, including Help My Baby Came Without Instructions and Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. Boy, isn't that the truth? If you were in the Scottsdale, Arizona area, you would have seen Blythe on Arizona Midday on KPNX Channel 12, and she's a frequent contributor to the Daily Dish segments on She Knows TV. And the rest of us around the country, if you're not in that neck of the woods, can always tune into her radio show right here on TogiNet, Baby and Toddler Instructions, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And boy, I do my best to be there, Blythe, with you every Wednesday. Welcome.
Yay, you're my greatest supporter. My headphones don't fit. You made my head swell. Thank you, Robin. I'm so excited to be on the show. And I have to say, I really miss those fairs. I mean, I grew up in the East, and boy, we don't have them here. The heat would probably kill everybody.
It's true. I think every state does have something, but you're right. It's difficult to have some of the fairs like we've had out here in the East, because it's just prohibitive unless you have everything under a tent or everything indoors, and that kind of contradicts what the whole point is.
Well, we do it different in the fall. And I should say in the winter, we don't really have a fall. We have wonderful farmers markets that run from October up to the first week of June.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's the farmer's market, but it's not the fairs with the animals and the rides and
Yeah.
the bad foods. It's really good.
Oh, you mean all the fried dough and all of the ice cream things. Well, I just encourage people to go out wherever you are. And actually, I Googled today town fairs, state fairs, old home days. I Googled it, and it's really, you can put your state on after it, and there's a lot to it's a lot to be seen. So I encourage everybody to go and find something in your neck of the woods. Well, Blythe, I know on your show you have talked a number of times about traveling with little ones, and in your newest book, you've kind of addressed that quite a bit. And I think especially for families with either one parent deployed or families who are in a new location due to a PCS move, these tips are even more valuable. So maybe we could talk a little bit about car trips with baby, and then possibly we can ramp up to tips on toddler traveling.
Well, my chapter in Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions is called Oh, the Places We'll Go.
Oh,
And
how lovely.
it's all about whether you're traveling by car or by plane or whatever you're doing. The things that I think are so important is plan ahead. Don't wait till the last minute. And what really saves parents if you're in a car trip or if you're a single parent and daddy's deployed or mommy's deployed and you're driving,
Mhm.
you know what? Have something different for the baby or the toddler to do. Go to the dollar store and purchase something that's age appropriate and safe. And, something new keeps their attention more. Also,
Sure.
also, I love having CDs where you can sing along. I read a really interesting article online about sippy cups because I've always said, it's important to make sure you have plenty of snacks for your children no matter what age, because stopping at those, on the side of the road can be really expensive, and they
Hmm.
don't always have what your little ones eat. Um, but taking water, if you take a sippy cup, it's really important to put water, only fill it halfway because if it spills, you're not going to have sticky stuff all over the car or if you're on a
Hmm.
plane. But I read an interesting article, Robin, about a mom that gave her toddler a sippy cup. He was in his car seat in the back. And I don't know what happened if she hit a bump or something, but this
Hmm.
sippy cup went flying and hit the kid in the head and gave
Oh,
him a concussion,
a concussion.
and they had to go to the emergency room, and it was like a flying object. So I am going to say, if you're going to give your kids sippy cups, you know what, if they can use a paper cup or pull over, if you're on a highway that you're going 65 miles an hour, I mean, if that thing goes flying, and sometimes toddlers do throw, believe
Yeah.
it or not, and they could hit you in the head.
Wow. Yeah, and there you go. It just takes that one instance, and you could be off the side of the road.
Absolutely. And if you have older children, it's the same thing. A lot of times older children like to draw, or they we talk about video games, but let's not even get into that. But make
Hmm.
sure you have things to entertain your older children. Older children, 7, 8, 9, they get bored too, and it's hard to sit. It's hard to sit still for all of us, even adults, if we're going on a trip. So, healthy snacks, and I find that the older kids want to eat a lot more than the younger ones, and they always want to stop and they go, I have to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes because they're bored.
Well, sure, sure. And then the other thing that I always would worry about would be the choking.
Yes,
Even a cracker or a little piece, if they just swallow it the wrong way and it just gets stuck, then you've got that choking concern.
absolutely. And some of the video games are good. Not everybody has a car with a movie screen in it, but you can certainly take a little video player and let them
Hmm.
watch something on a trip, something they haven't seen, or if it's a younger child, something educational thrown in, and an older one that let them read a book. You know what? A
Sure.
lot of schools have book lists for the summer that they
Mm.
want the children to read.
Right, and that's the perfect thing. What about anxiety for little ones being in a different environment? You get out of the car, you've got this screaming kid. What are some things, and I know we've only got about 3 minutes before the break already, but what can parents do to ease that anxiety when you've got a little one that's just out of sorts?
first of all, don't react. Stay calm. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you get nervous, they sense your nervousness. You know what? Make it fun. If you're getting out of the car and they're scared or they're screaming or they're crying, especially the little toddlers, 2, 3, 4, it's easy to change up what you're doing. Say, look at the flower over there. Let's see how many green things we can find. Just redirect them. And if you can't, give them a big hug and go with it, and they'll calm down eventually because it's tough. Change is tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I remember going to a family reunion and our little guy was just, he'd had it. He'd had it. I think it is difficult, and you're right. It's so hard when a parent is in with a bunch of other adults and then you're the only one that has the kids that are screaming. Blythe, I want to just focus a little bit on your new book, Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. Where can we find this, and where can we find more tips about it?
You can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Audible.com. You can go to my website, which is new and improved. I'm so excited, babyinstructions.com. If you have a question, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Email me a question if you have something you don't know how to handle with a toddler, or if you can't find the book.
Plus, you have virtual coaching as well for services. Is that correct?
I do in-home if you live in Arizona. If I do video, if you have Skype, sometimes people will say, look, my baby's screaming and put it on Skype. And I do in-home video, and I also do telephone consults. So I'm available all over the world. Just call me. And I love it.
And even though I don't have little ones anymore, I just eat it all up because I love talking with you and I love all of the discussions that you have, Blythe. Thanks so much for joining me this first segment. I know so many people are traveling, and I know all the tips you have in your new book are going to help make their summer the best one yet.
Thanks, Robin. I love talking to you. You have a great show the rest of the time.
You have a great afternoon too, Blythe. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, coming up in the rest of the show, we have Dr. Lawrence Enders coming. He is an MD, a flight surgeon, colonel, a commander of the U.S. Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine. He has had an extensive career, and his book, Surviving Serendipity, is going to detail it all. And after Dr. Enders, we've got Suzanne Phillips joining us.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Believe in your fairy tale to make your zing come true.
I love it.
Debbie Glickman and Deanna Cohen know it. Join these soul sisters on TogiNet.com. Believe in your fairy tale to make your zing come true. Showcases two sides. One, to help entrepreneurs showcase their products and tell their story of their happily ever after. And two, to interview people who have realized their own fairy tale and doing something to benefit others. This show is here to help folks who have an idea and want to get it off the ground, as well as to inspire people to make the world a better place by doing something extraordinary or out of the box to help others. Both of these entrepreneurs have their own businesses and websites. With more information on their passions and successes, first for Debbie, fairytalewishesinc.com, and for Deanna, thenextbigzing.com. Believe in your fairy tale to make your zing come true with the Soul Sisters, Debbie Glickman and Deanna Cohen on TogiNet.com. Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you, you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know, but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and the Book Shepherd, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network.
We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Red, white, and blue.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Military Mom Talk Radio, and Sandra, just to let you know, is enjoying a little bit of time away with her family, having a great summer, and I hope you are having a great summer as well. We just had a little visit from Blythe Lippman. She is the host of Baby and Toddler Instructions right here on TogiNet every Wednesday at 11 a.m., and I made a mistake going right out of the break, so I have to let you know we have Dr. Suzanne Phillips joining us in just a little bit. She has been with us a number of times, and she is a licensed psychologist that helps us with so many issues that are so important to all of our families. But first, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Lawrence Enders, MD, flight surgeon, a colonel in the U.S. Air Force, and I did say an incorrect title, but what I meant was he was the in command of the U.S. Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine for a bit of a time. Dr. Enders, are you with us?
I'm with you. This is Robin
Hi.
I'm speaking to, I believe.
It is Robin. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Enders. Well, I have got to say, your book has truly been an adventure to read. It is a wonderful memoir, and I have to say, this is a far cry from a regular hometown physician. I guess the draft in the 1950s kind of put that all out the window, didn't it?
Yeah, yes, it did. And then as soon as I finished medical school, they were there looking for me and said, well, have I got a deal for you? That was a favorite saying. You have a choice of going in the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force. That's your choice. And I took the Air Force because I love airplanes.
Did you always envision that flying may be a part of your future, or was this just something that it was the better of the other?
No, I had never thought I would be flying, but I loved watching airplanes. I had been on an airplane ride before. I liked model airplanes, and I thought, well, I've always wanted to get in an airplane, particularly in a jet. And so all those things came true, especially down the line after I went to jet pilot school.
And therefore, the beginning of a series of serendipitous events in your life. One of the things that I noticed in your book was such detail of the chronology of all of these life experiences that you've had. Did you keep a diary? Did you keep notes? Did you journal at all through all of these years that you served?
No, I didn't really keep a diary. I just happened to be a pack rat. And so on each adventure that I was on, there was always something I could bring back to remember it by. And pictures. Now, when I was one of the doctors for the astronauts, I had pictures of all the astronauts, some of them signed directly to me. I was able to collect the personal signatures of all the first three groups of astronauts, which I have. And some of them were my closer friends, and from the space flight, they would bring something back. Tom Stafford went to the moon, and he took a silver pen with him with his name engraved on it, which he gave me.
Oh, wow.
Memorabilia like that. So with the boxes full of memorabilia, all I had to do is go through it and sort it out time-wise and remember the stories. Pretty much just memory.
Was writing this book sort of a culmination for you to be able to look back, or were you prompted by other people saying your experiences are astounding and we want to really know more?
Well, I kept a little, it wasn't exactly a logbook, but of the memorabilia that entailed pictures and writings and things like that, I kept a scrapbook. And kids would come, friends or neighbors would see it and say, wow, look at all these things. What about this? What about this? And we'd end up about 3 hours into the story. They say, you need to write a book about this stuff. So, especially being the serendipitous events that they were. Everybody has serendipitous events once or twice in their life. And as I say, if I'm giving a talk, if you get them once or twice, you tell your friends. If you get them over a dozen times, you write a book, which is what it is.
Well, it really was, as I say, reading through it, an adventure, because you have a wonderful way of inviting people into the events that happen rather than just chronicling them. A wonderful read. Talk about diverse experiences, from being the doctor for the Mercury and Gemini astronauts to helping to build a small hospital at a jungle base to flying 75 combat missions. I would think that I was talking to somebody 112 years old because I can't imagine
Close.
fitting. No, far from it. And that's why I mean, what an extreme. Because so many things have occurred in such a short span of time. How did the aerospace events come into play? I'm sure from being a flight surgeon, all of a sudden being invited to be a part of the aerospace.
Astronauts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, I took a residency in aerospace medicine that was given to me by the Air Force, paid for, which is a 4-year program, including going to jet pilot school, and then getting a master's degree at Cal, and then going through all the survival schools, and then going to 2 more years of academics, and then I'm now a board-certified specialist in aerospace medicine. And about that time, when I finished it, NASA was getting into the space program, and they were starting to get guys to go up in space, and they realized that they didn't have enough physicians to be in all the tracking sites all around the world.
Oh, I see.
And so they went to the Air Force and said, do you have any specialists in aerospace medicine? And they said, yes, we do. And said, we would like to borrow some for a few years. And they selected me as one of them.
Borrow them.
That's how that part came about.
I like that. Borrow them. And I'm sure that in and of itself could have just been an amazing experience. One of the chapters
It really was.
Yeah, one of the chapters in your book, you say that astronauts are only human. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think a lot of people, what they read in the paper and saw in magazines, and these 7 astronauts were chosen, and then a group of 9, then a group of 13. And they probably thought these were really supermen, super strong, super everything. They were smart guys. They were physically well. But as it turned out, they were likely to get the same things that any other guy down the street. If we look back at the astronauts, all the astronauts we've had over the years, and I know it goes back a ways, but 47 of our astronauts have died, including 5 out of the original 7. And you say, well, there must have been all those accidents. Accidents were a big part of it. But 6 died of heart attacks, 7 had cancer, 2 had brain tumors. Only 2 of the original 7 are around. So they eventually came down, or had, unseen by the medical staff, all the things that you might see in your neighbors up and down the street.
Yeah. One of the chapters in your book was interesting regarding the Russian KGB agents. Now, how did you come to have a relationship with KGB agents?
Well, any physician who is, especially if you're a specialist, each year you have to go and get continuing medical education credits to keep up on everything. Otherwise, your license isn't repeated. And on one of them, I was at an international aerospace medical meeting in Washington, D.C., in a huge hotel there, and they had lectures and movies and instruments and all the equipment, and a bunch of booths. Exhibitors were there too. And I was walking down this row of exhibitors, and came to one that had a Soviet Union emblem on it. But there was nothing in it except three guys standing there, one closer to the front of the counter. And as I walked by, he said to me, Dr. Enders, how are things at the school? At this time, I was commander at the school, aerospace. And I looked at him. I had never seen this man before in my life. And I said, excuse me, do I know you? He says, no, but we know you. Can we have our picture taken with you? And he has to have a picture taken. And I said, well, I guess that's okay. He says, let's go out into the parking lot for this. And I said, I was kind of thinking, maybe this is not too bright. So we did go out. They took the pictures. I reported all this to the OSI, who reported it to the FBI after it came back, which was required by military law. If you're approached by a foreign national, you have to report that.
I see.
And the
yes.
FBI came to see me and said, did you ever get copies of those pictures? I said, no. Well, write to them and ask them for copies of the pictures. So the FBI was behind me in communicating with these guys, and I did for about 4 years before the main one I was talking to disappeared.
Oh,
because
dear.
he was writing me things in his letters that were too nice. He was on Amman, Jordan, and said, we really like it here because they have Western music and the clothing is Western. My wife loves it here. Suddenly the communication was cut off.
Oh, no.
But after almost 30 years, I have found this man again. He's near death, and I communicate with him, and he is so terribly unhappy about the Soviet Union now.
Yeah.
And he writes me letters and saying
isn't that so? I'm glad that you reconnected. Dr. Enders, I'm going to encourage everybody to read more about this story in your book, Surviving Serendipity. They can find it at your website, survivingserendipity.com, correct?
You can look up www.survivingserendipity, all one word.com. You can find it with Amazon. Just go to Amazon Books and look for Surviving Serendipity.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much. I'm so sorry.
It's out there wherever you normally look.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Do you ever feel like you're the invisible woman? Too polite to be political, too nice to be real, tame even though you really want to be unleashed? Like you're living in a fairy tale without the happy ending? Well, Cinderella has left the ball, and it's time to wake up and break up with our own self-imposed glass slippers and ceilings. Welcome to Le Chic Speak, the polite woman's guide to self-expression, with your host, Jen Duchenne. Le Chic Speak is the Woohoo Radio Network's resident radio show dedicated to helping women turn on their power and turn up the volume of their voices so you can be seen, heard, appreciated, and celebrated. Join us on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time for your weekly dose of Le Chic Speak with your host, Jen Duchenne, only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
It's Talkin' Smack with Beth, the real sports mom. It's 1 hour of hot topics that matter to sports moms and athletes. We'll be bringing you tips and advice from the leaders in youth sports today, as well as some inspiring stories from athletes and sports moms. With our own Sports Moms Roundtable, you're invited to be part of our show. We strive to educate and empower sports moms everywhere. Join us for Talkin' Smack with Beth, the real sports mom, every Thursday at 12 noon Central, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network.
'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Robin Boyd with you today while Sandra Beck is enjoying some vacationing with the family. I just wanted to apologize to Dr. Enders. We ran the segment just a tad long, and I wanted to make sure everyone had his website, www.survivingserendipity.com. His book is a delight, and I encourage all of you to go out and put that on your summer reading list. Next, I'm so excited to chat with Dr. Suzanne Phillips. She's a licensed psychologist. She's worked with couples for over 25 years in the aftermath of trauma and has provided direct service to civilians and uniformed responders, trained other professionals, published on bereavement, trauma, uniformed services, and couples. Dr. Suzanne, are you with us today?
I'm right here.
Yay! Hello, welcome. I'm glad you're with us today.
How are you?
Oh, great.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I hope that you're in a cool spot.
I'm okay, yes. We're okay here in New York. It's not too bad today. I spent the weekend in Vermont at a wedding, so it's been good. How about you? Where are you?
New Hampshire, so we're just behind you. You
okay.
always get things about 12 hours ahead of us, so if you're having a good day today, then tomorrow will be great for us. Well, we've had a number of discussions with you over the course of our show, and we're so appreciative of you visiting with us. One of the things that we wanted to focus a little bit on today was the new findings that you might want to share with us on the unexpected benefits of long-distance relationships. And, I mean, we can all attest to being separated. I know if I've gone away, in fact, my daughter's up in Vermont, and I've gone away, and then of course it's really fun coming home. I haven't seen my husband in a couple of days, and that's always wonderful. But when we're talking about the military, we're talking about a number of dynamics. We're talking about long separation. We're talking about the stress that separation is under. How can couples cope and maintain? And we have a whole gambit of things to talk about.
Well, when I saw this study, it seemed to find something that I thought was very translatable for our military couples, because sometimes there's an assumption, a worry, oh my God, when we are separated, things won't go well between us. I mean, we even know statistically that one of the most upsetting things to anyone deployed is to in some way be in contention or feel like the partner at home no longer loves them or things are not going well. So when I came across this study that found, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. When I came across this study that found that the relationship stability, satisfaction, and trust reported by long-distance couples was equal to or better than those at a close distance, close and at home, I thought, well, why did this happen and what can we learn from it? What's interesting about this study, Robin, is we have loads of definitions of intimacy. You know, we have emotional intimacy, the sharing of feelings, the expressions of affection, sexual intimacy. We have experiential intimacy, meaning you spend time with each other, you've had children together, you've painted houses together. And then we have what we would call interpersonal or verbal intimacy. And what's interesting is that that's how it was defined in this particular study. This study looked at intimacy in terms of the expressions of shared closeness, disclosure, and the back and forth interpersonal relationship between people who are at a distance by virtue of the phone, email, text, videos, etc. And a very interesting thing really unfolds, and that is one of the things it's worth us all knowing this, and that is when we're in a long-distance relationship, what they saw that the couples did is adapt to the fact that they couldn't physically show intimacy. And so an interesting thing happened. They studied two pieces of communication that really enhances intimacy that I think we overlook. We're always telling couples, communicate. People writing books say if there's no communication, there's no relationship. So here's what they broke it down to. They said communication enhances intimacy when it includes self-disclosure. So the first step was how many times I disclose and how many times my spouse who's deployed discloses. And I might disclose, usually they found with long-distance folks, I might disclose, I really miss you, or let me tell you what's going on here that's very interesting, that's very positive, and how many times that person disclosed back. But the most significant thing was the next step, and that is the perceived response of your partner. And they found that with long-distance partners, they tended to disclose much more, both. Because remember, they were using language as a way to be intimate. They tended to disclose more positives than negatives. There was less contention, less cynicism, less bringing up of problems. But the really important factor was that the perceived response. And what was positive about that received response was when it, in fact, validated the disclosure. So if I said, I had a good day today, the kids really got to school and we got to all of the games on time, when that perceived response was, you're really good at handling the kids, I don't know how you manage it, that means I got some affirmation for my disclosure. When, in addition, the respondent said something caring or loving or affirming, like, just know how much I love you, or don't forget I'm thinking about you a lot, that even added to the positive response. So when they compared the disclosures and the perceived responses of those folks who had close contact as opposed to long distance, there were many, many more positive self-disclosures and perceived responses in the long-distance group. There was also more idealization of the partners. Now, we could think that this might provide a problem, but another study I'm going to tell you about will show you how valuable these dynamics are. So when you have to think about your partner and you're only hearing from him or her by text, iMessage, email, or phone, you have to hold on to what was said and use it as the basis for thinking about that person. If you've ever, this has happened to me, if you're thinking about your partner or even one of your kids and you're driving, you're thinking, I love this person, he's great, this, that. You get home and then they start being themselves and you're like, oh my God, and that's all disappeared. So one thing that happens when we are using media is, A, we tend to fill in the gaps because we can't see the person often, or we can't spend hours with the person. We also often review. We reread the email. We listen to the message. We look at the video, and it keeps the positive affirmation very much alive. So it holds on to a very positive sense of the other. Now, one of the first things I thought of was, Go ahead, Robin.
What I was going to say is, in a way, it's almost like when someone loses one sense, is if they lost their hearing or lost their sight, for example, all of the other senses are heightened because of that. When we're sitting in the living room, sometimes my husband and I are sitting side by side for a couple of hours. We may not have said a word to each other, and we might sort of intimate something like, well, yes, I'm hungry or whatever, but we're not discussing it, or we're not verbalizing it, or we're not saying, gee, you really worked hard on that project today, and I really love how it came out. All of this discussion, long distance, is sort of heightened because of the lack of the demographic.
Absolutely. That's perfect. That's exactly right. It's almost like the more cues you drop by virtue of having to use the media, the more heightened you are to the ones you get. Exactly what you said is true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things we could sort of say to our military couples, you really have a means of enhancing the intimacy. Do not rule out the fact that positive communication really does help maintain the stability of your relationship. Because that's one of the things the findings had when we then asked the couples to rate trust and stability in the relationship. The long-distance folks were equal, if not more, positive with higher scores in those dynamics. It's interesting that another study really helps me make sense of this one, and I just wanted to share that one too. And that came from the American Psychological Association with very unexpected findings, and that is it sort of revealed that although we need our partners during the worst of times, the rough times, what we face post-deployment often, it's the responses to our partners in the best of times that we remember most and we use to buffer the worst of times.
Well, isn't that true? And I think sometimes we forget that the people that are the closest to us are the only ones who can really hold us up in those times when we really need them. Dr. Suzanne, we have a break coming up, so I just wanted to make sure that we let everybody know you're going to stay with us through the next segment so we can continue this conversation. I wanted to be sure that everyone knew your website is couplesaftertrauma.com. And you also have a blog, is that correct?
That's correct. And that's called Healing Together for Couples.
And we can find that at blogs.psychcentral.com, is that correct?
If you put in Healing Together and Psych Central, you'll see over 180 blogs, many very suited for our military couples.
Absolutely. I've been to both sites. They are chock-filled with wonderful articles and wonderful support. We'll be back in a moment with Dr. Suzanne Phillips right here on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Believe in your fairy tale to make your zing come true.
I love it.
Debbie Glickman and Deanna Cohen know it. Join these soul sisters on TogiNet.com. Believe in your fairy tale to make your zing come true. Showcases two sides. One, to help entrepreneurs showcase their products and tell their story of their happily ever after. And two, to interview people who have realized their own fairy tale and doing something to benefit others. This show is here to help folks who have an idea and want to get it off the ground, as well as to inspire people to make the world a better place by doing something extraordinary or out of the box to help others. Both of these entrepreneurs have their own businesses and websites. With more information on their passions and successes, first for Debbie, fairytalewishesInc.com, and for Deanna, thenextbigzing.com. Believe in your fairy tale to make your zing come true with the Soul Sisters, Debbie Glickman and Deanna Cohen on TogiNet.com. Everyday Autism Miracles with Shannon Penrod. Friday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Life after an autism spectrum diagnosis doesn't have to be difficult. It can be joyful, happy, and filled with hope. Join Shannon Penrod, author, speaker, coach, and mom of a 6-year-old recovering from autism for this inspirational hour of hope. She's even authored a series of children's autism books with her son, Jim. For more information about the books, Shannon, and Everyday Autism Miracles, go to her website, shannonpenrod.com. From there, you can also get to her other websites, blogs, and connections. On Everyday Autism Miracles, you'll hear stories from parents whose children have made miraculous strides. You'll also get the inside dish on therapies, treatments, supplements, and how to get funding to help you afford them. Miracles abound in the autism community. So tune in for Everyday Autism Miracles to listen, share, laugh, and surround yourself with hope. Everyday Autism Miracles with Shannon Penrod. Friday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com.
We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and a statue of liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio. And if you've missed any portion of this show or want to check up some of the other shows that we've had, you can always find us right here on the TogiNet station, our show page right here at TogiNet.com. You can find us on iTunes. You can always find us at MilitaryMomTalkRadio.com. And we have loads of podcasts there for you to check up, bring a few tracks to the beach with you or to the lake or wherever you are enjoying this wonderful summer vacation. Earlier in the show, we had Dr. Enders, Dr. Lawrence Enders. He's an MD, a flight surgeon, wrote a wonderful book called Surviving Serendipity. And the top of the show, we welcomed Blythe Littman, one of the wonderful hosts that we have here on TogiNet. She has baby and toddler instructions every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, that is. So do check in with Blythe. And right now, we are chatting with Dr. Suzanne Phillips, a licensed psychologist, and we were talking about some of the benefits of long-distance relationships. It's an interesting study that she has just been reading more about and sharing with us. Dr. Phillips, before we get back into our discussion, though, I want to ask you one thing. What do you think about starting something brand new after reintegration when somebody comes home and maybe there's a little difficulty getting to know each other again because all of a sudden you're living with each other again? Something like ballroom dancing or gourmet cooking classes for two. What do you think about those kinds of things?
Well, it's one of the things we actually suggest in the book Healing Together for Couples. When you talk about couples relating, you think about different domains. One of them is actually doing something together. Mm-hmm. And, Robin, what's interesting about doing something new together is it sort of goes like this. And this is why sometimes you have people falling in love in office places. So if you're doing something with someone, and I remember my husband and I were just newly married, and we came out here to Long Island, and we took this outdoor ballroom dancing. Oh, no, it was actually hustle dancing.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, the hustle music, this is the 70s, the hustle music is going. Everybody's tangled up trying to be John Travolta. I'm really aging myself. And people were screaming, "You're breaking my arm, you're hurting my foot." But we had a ball. And for that time, everything else sort of disappears. The beauty of something like dancing or kayaking is that when you always tie in physical with a sport as well as time shared, it's very, very valuable. But when you do something together, it goes something like this. Inevitably, if you've shared an experience, you've had experiential intimacy, you refer to it. So now you have something to talk about. Now the communication ratchets up, because this is what would happen in an office if you were working on a project. So now you're talking together about the ballroom dancing and the fact that maybe you're starting to get it, or wasn't that other couple hilarious, or you're practicing at home a little. And inevitably, if you do something enough with someone and you talk enough with someone, you're going to start touching that person. And then pretty soon, in a much more natural way, the tenderness and I call it dancing in the dark, the pillow talk and the intimacy starts to naturally and with far less pressure unfold.
Mm-hmm. It is difficult, I think, when people come back. They are going to be a little different, and I'm saying that with the most respect possible. Nobody can go away and not come back with some differences, and it's difficult for the family because there are times that what that person used to enjoy, they aren't enjoying anymore, or the habits that the person had before, they are not continuing anymore. And I think talking as a family about it or with someone such as yourself is so important. And we've talked how important this is for families to process this as a family, not just assume the one person who is just reintegrated is going to go to the doctor and be the same as they were before.
Well, the reason I think what you're saying is so valid is because we've got to realize, and I'm going to be doing in 2 weeks a camp for military children that I do every year, and it's wonderful. And sometimes wisdom comes from the children's comments. Not only is our military mom or dad who's been deployed, not only have they inevitably had to change, so have the folks at home.
Sure.
So, when I think about coming home, I think everybody's coming home in a new way to find each other and redefine the dynamics of the family. So that when you hear children saying, that what was so great is that Dad showed me on the map where he was, and we loved hearing his stories. Or I hear sometimes couples say, and you probably have certainly heard this more than I, there's, of course, that first honeymoon period where everyone's so ecstatic, everything's wonderful. Sometimes even the intimacy is wonderful. We get into 4 months, and sometimes we start to have some symptoms emerge, and it really sometimes very much offsets the connection because now the returning veteran or military person is starting to feel where are these coming from. The partner may get anxious. So the more, I'm all about us knowing and wanting them to know these are inevitable. We're going to deal with them. The symptoms make sense. But let's keep talking. Now, sometimes we can say to folks, talk. It's not so easy. And we've said to couples, as well as couples with their children, let's sometimes ask the children to ask us both questions. How did Mommy change? How did Daddy change? More importantly, how did the pet change? How did you change? The children can talk about sometimes they want people to hear them catch up on what's happened in school, how they took on new roles when Mom or Dad were deployed. So I think sometimes a safer base is to give the children the attention and invite them to talk. I'm always supporting the couples having time. Either one couple, they did a great thing, Robin. They both kept notes while the other was away. They didn't share this on the phone or with text messages. And then when they came back, she was actually an Air Force officer. And he also was in the military. They sort of would pick anything up out of their diary and just read it to the other, to give the other a glimpse of some of what went on and a little bit of a glimpse of their new self. And it was a very nice starting point. If a couple doesn't have that and they don't feel so comfortable talking, even watching a movie together can start them talking and start relating it to themselves. But your point is a great one. The whole family dynamic changes, and not necessarily for a negative. When people don't have the familiar, they tend to think the new way is not a good way, and that's not necessarily true at all.
I can appreciate that very much because maybe there was an experience that the people, those staying home had. Maybe they were more self-sufficient or their self-esteem was built because they were able to manage the finances and be able to call the plumber when the toilet backed up or whatever. Maybe those were things that the people at home never had to do and now have that strength. And yet, the person who's just come home can say, oh, good, now I don't have to bear all of the household burdens on my shoulders. They can actually come home and share the household, I guess you could say. That's just an example, but I think that's kind of what we're looking at is positive changes.
Yes, the role changes are a really great one for people to sort of let them flesh out a little. Nobody's taking your role as dad away because they fixed the plumbing while you were gone, and no one's taking your role as mom away. One mom was in Iraq while dad was doing the 3-year-old birthday.
Yeah,
and she said, I had this urge, so I started going online looking at what I could send for what the costume should be. But they had it all set, she said. But we get a little threatened sometimes. But as you say, if you can celebrate, and in fact, that was the other study, when you affirm what your partner did while you were away, it's called capitalization. You double it. Because now they not only did that birthday, and you not only came home, or you not only did things while you were away that were remarkable maybe to you in service, hearing about it and having your partner affirm you about it now expands it. And that's a really good way to start bridging the story from afar and the story that took place at home.
That's so marvelous. We've already come very close to the end of the show. We've only got about 3 minutes. One quick question. Why should people address these reintegrations with a professional? I know so many times, and especially in past generations, troops will come home and say, "Oh, I'm going to tough it out." They don't want to have to deal with professionals. Why should we talk this out with you?
Because it's actually a very understandable dilemma that most people are in. Reintegration is not an easy thing. And when there is a third party in the room, or a fourth or fifth if the family's brought in, you get the benefit of having someone observe you. It is like someone observing you dancing. You can't observe yourself dancing. So they're able to see at a distance what's happening that actually might make sense, but is now really derailing some of the integration. A very recent study said that the closer the couple, the more likely they are to seek help when they realize they have family concerns. And that our young military, Iraq and Afghanistan, vets are more likely to seek couple therapy than our older vets. Just because they grew up at different times, they have more of an kind of peer relationship. So they're really trying to think of how they can encourage our older vets. But, Robin, you make such a good point, because I've seen couples don't have to stay in treatment for long. Sometimes they come and they literally are just listening to me repeat back to each other what the other is saying, but be it anxiety or stress or fear, they can hardly hear each other. I'm not saying anything different. I'm just saying it a few inches away.
That's so wonderful. Dr. Phillips, we have to say goodbye. Suzanne Phillips, please find more of her wonderful observations and her wonderful conversations at couplesaftertrauma.com. Thanks, Dr. Phillips.
Well, thanks for having me. A pleasure to be on the show again, Robin.
You take care. Next week, everyone, we've got Marcella Stretch joining us from Parents of Deployed Service Members, Lori Bell from the National Association of Military Moms and Spouses, and Judy Brizantine, author of Stunned by Grief, a unique guide of coping tools and tips. Join us next week on Military Mom Talk Radio. So long, everyone.